It's Wednesday night, and we're back live on the Big Mountain.
Welcome back to the Big Mountain. I am JY. This is my good friend Steve for another live episode. We did something new today. We did a pre-show on X, Steve. I know we have some people in the chat talking about that. Shout out to Fia, informing all of our dwellers that we're going to try to start doing some pre-shows on X for those that are interested. Really low-key, laid back, just kind of talking about what we're going to talk about on the live show, maybe take some calls. We had a couple calls here today about things that we weren't really planning on talking about, and it was a good discussion.
I loved it.
So thanks to those that joined. I know Fia was on, and as well as some others. And so we got some items planned here. We're going to talk about the Big Ten preseason. I think you have some early line picks, some other things you want to do. I'm going to talk about the Mountain West preseason picks. And then, of course, we got to talk about the Pac-12 because there's a lot of news going on. I've been putting out some items on X as well regarding the grant of rights, regarding the membership agreement. I want to inform everyone about what kind of is in those. So I think we have another really interesting pod.
I'm excited, but so much news, so much things going on, and I feel like July 1st feels like that point where we turn the corner to now we're really in preseason mode. We've got games next month, so I'm jazzed.
We got everybody saying hello, dwellers, saying hello in the chat. It's great to have you all here. These are so much fun. I love our live shows, and I love all the dwellers already getting at it in the chat. But without further ado, Steve, you know how we roll. We start with the Big Ten.
Yeah.
And I think you have a couple things you want to talk about. So where are we headed?
So it's preseason ranking season. We're going to get a couple sets of preseason rankings. We're going to start off with wide receiver. These were done by the Big Ten Huddle. Now, you and I recently, we got our Phil Steele magazines.
Yes.
It's that season of all these preseason rankings.
Yes.
What do they mean? Who knows for now. But it's a good thing to carry us into the season.
Yeah.
So there's two areas that really jumped out at me. And again, these are from, it's an account I follow on Twitter, the Big Ten Huddle. You should definitely follow. If you're a Big Ten fan or college football fan in general, you should definitely be following them. They're a good site. They're a fun site. They put out fun things like this. So just wanted to kind of talk about these wide receiver rankings to begin with. Right away, number one, out the gate, Ohio State. They got Jeremiah Smith, the best.
Who cares the other receivers? They got freaking Jeremiah Smith.
Well, the funny thing is they have Jeremiah Smith, and those other guys are just a whole room of five-star players.
Right.
So, that makes a lot of sense. And I think USC second. Again, they lost a bunch of people in transfer portal and are just loaded at the position.
Okay.
A whole bunch of 5 stars there.
Well, and I'm excited. I'm going to say it.
Yes.
I'm excited for USC because they got my boy, Jaden Mayava, at quarterback, a good receiver room. I'm going to be rooting for him. I mean, I usually crap on USC.
Yes, you do.
I usually do. But for this 1 year, I'm going to be rooting for the Spartans.
And honestly, I think
Spartans, is that what they are?
The Trojans.
Trojans.
Yes.
Ooh, I screwed that up.
Spartans,
I better get it right.
Yeah. So, the Trojan War and all that stuff.
Whatever.
But, USC, they have it set up. They have their roster set up for Maeva and for a good run this year.
Good.
So it doesn't surprise me that they're second. Now, what's really weird to see pop up there is the next one.
That's unbelievable.
The Penn State wide receiver room, number 3. They have been absolutely yuck and poo the last few years. Just absolute garbage. As far as a room and their performance and their production, and really ever since Jahan Dotson left,
love that kid.
Yes, exactly. It's been rough going. What did they do? They went out. That was their, they get knocked out by a field goal in the college football semifinal to Notre Dame. They came out starting that game looking like they may dominated the game, but they just couldn't again keep that offensive going. The wide receivers had 0 catches in the entire game, which continued a long stretch of poor performance by the wide receivers. You have the tight ends completely going off. You have the running backs getting production in the passing game, but the wide receiver room just absolutely was the failure of the offense last year. They go out. They needed a transfer. They go out, they get 3. They get probably 3 out of the top 5 transfer wide receivers. They grab somebody, Hudson, who made a great catch last year against Penn State and some other games from USC. They go and get Pena out of Syracuse, the most probably the most productive wide receiver in the country last year.
And a pretty good quarterback.
When they look at, he did, yes. But just a guy who was very productive.
Yeah.
And then they go out and get another guy, and his name is escaping me right now, out of Tulane, who was, again, not only very productive, but also had some great game-breaking capabilities.
Okay.
So they go and get 3 of the top 5 wide receivers, jumps them. We'll see. They have to produce. But, I mean, these are 3 new guys. You can't judge the 3 new guys based on what the people did, because pretty much everybody's gone from last year.
Yeah.
Other than Sean Clifford's little brother,
Okay.
Who's still just hanging on somehow. He's like the practice player of the game all the time. Completely new wide receiver room, including a bunch of new recruits.
Well, let's talk about the position.
Yeah.
Because, receivers is a little different than maybe just about any other position in that they're running routes, right? Like, if you have the speed, if you've got the hands, you have the cut ability.
Yeah.
Like, a receiver maybe is one of the most interchangeable positions, at least on the offense, right? Like, so, I mean, in terms of transfers of any position, you can be like, yeah, that's a plug and play.
Yes.
Receiver's probably that position.
I agree. You can't really do that on the offensive line as much.
No.
You need the chemistry. They're right next to the guy next to them.
Yes.
Receivers are on an island. So even if one of these 3 really jumps out and has a great season, it should be an improvement.
Okay.
We'll see if they're actually the top 3. I think you'll like this. Number 4, Indiana.
Yeah.
Kurt Signetti.
Get him, Sig.
Yeah. I mean, Coach Sig, he just keeps he brings in transfers, he's bringing in recruits. I mean, everything. The coaching level was such a big jump up, and everybody focuses on that, including us, Coach Signetti. But the talent level has increased in Indiana.
It's a different. This isn't Indiana,
right?
This is a Big Ten team.
Yes,
I mean, not to crap on what they used to have, but totally different situation.
Totally different situation.
They're ahead of Oregon, for shit's sake.
Exactly, and Oregon's been recruiting very high level, so I was pleasantly surprised to see Indiana up there. Nebraska with Dylan Raiola, that's what you need if you got a young quarterback. Same thing, Michigan State with what's his name there? Michigan State. Aiden Childs transferred from Oregon State. So you want to see these young quarterbacks get help. And then I'm just going to go down. Illinois, they lost a couple really key guys from last year. I do actually think I would have them a little higher because I think their receiver core.
12, hey?
Well, I think it's based on what they lost. They lost their top 2 guys from last year. Iowa being down low doesn't surprise me. And honestly, the bottom 3, Northwestern, UCLA, and Purdue, we've said this, they've struggled to rebuild the talent at those programs. But one key one, I'm going to point out Michigan.
Yeah, what the heck is going on?
This is what I've been telling you for a couple years now, basically since the beginning of last season. They had a really bad quarterback room last year, but they also got almost no production out of the wide receiver room. Michigan fans will tell you they think it's going to be a lot better this year. I personally don't.
Okay.
We'll see their new 5-star quarterback that's supposed to be coming in there. We'll see if what he's got to work with. But I'm nervous about Michigan as a team this year, and I think you'll see that as a recurring theme as we go along in this preseason, and I do picks.
Well, I'm excited, because, Steve, we're starting to... I mean, here we go, baby. We're in July.
Yeah.
We are gearing up for college football season. This is the first episode that we've done that is, it's not realignment or it's not... we're talking college football, baby. This is what we do on the mountain.
Yes.
And you're getting me excited, and I'm not even the Big Ten guy.
I know. I'm ready.
And the fact that Michigan is at 15, and I'm not big on their quarterback room.
Right.
And I mean, they're going to be better than last year, but it didn't take much to be better than last year.
Well, it's so much unknowns. Bryce Underwood, the new 5-star, brand new. Mikey Keene coming over.
Yeah,
Mikey Keene has had a history of playing well at, was he UCF before Fresno and at Fresno, but that was at a lower level. That wasn't in the Big Ten. We saw last year when the offense started to struggle, their line wasn't playing great, their skill, he also struggled.
Absolutely.
But 2 years ago, he played really, really well.
He did
so
fine.
If they could be guaranteed to get that Mikey Keene of 2 years ago, they could be. But again, that wasn't in the Big Ten. It wasn't against Big Ten defense.
Totally. So the lines are different animals. The speed.
Everything.
I mean, I love my Mountain West, but I'm sorry. The trenches in the Big Ten are as gnarly as you're going to get.
So there's no guarantees. And honestly, you see that actually. We're not talking about the quarterback room. We're talking about wide receiver. But I'll just say real quick. You see that at a lot of Big Ten programs this year. Ohio State breaking in a new quarterback, Julian Sand. Michigan probably breaking in a new quarterback. Oregon, Dante Moore. was a highly rated 5-star quarterback. Didn't do anything at UCLA. Could be awesome, but could do nothing. So
I have faith in that coaching staff and that.
We'll see. We'll see.
But
we'll see.
Of anybody, I give him the most faith.
Yeah. So
okay. So I'll give you some of my quick non-Big Ten.
And then we'll move to the offensive line.
Whatever. So first of all, UCLA at 17. I love that because a lot of Mountain West teams are playing UCLA this year. So let's beat up on a Big Ten team. That's the way I mean, I'm not saying I'm going to beat up, but if you're going to beat a team, them or Purdue are the team to frickin' beat up on.
Sure.
So let's do it. So that's the first comment.
What I will say is the wide receiver room at UCLA.
It's not the whole. Yeah,
but they play a physical game. Their coaches building up on the offensive line, defensive line, running game, stuff like that.
Let me poop on a Big Ten team.
All right. Okay.
Sorry. Michigan at 15. Unbelievable. Unbelievable that they're down at that far down. Surprised at Illinois because this is a team, and again we're talking wide receiver room only, but. With the quarterback, Altmaier. Thank you. Yes. Coming back, I'm high on that kid, but he needs somebody to throw to. You know, again, preseason wide receiver, we don't really know. Little concerning that Illinois is down there at 12 because you're high on them from a schedule standpoint, from Altmaier coming back, but. That's a little concerning to me. I mean, they're below frickin' Maryland, who you think is going to be garbage.
Yes.
Rutgers, Michigan State. I know that's a little concerning. And I'll tell you, you said it, Indiana up there at 4. Yeah. I'm loving life. And I'm surprised that Penn State's at 3. Like, I get that they're bringing in all these kids, but 3 in the Big Ten, that is serious. This is a serious ranking for them.
Penn State has put all their chips in. They've gone all in on this year.
If this is legit... I mean, I got to be honest with you. National championship or bust. This is legit.
I think definitely I would put their wide receiver room with these 3 guys. If they get through camp, they're healthy, whatever. I'd say they go from bottom 5 to top 5.
Okay.
I do with Illinois. I think they're a little bit better than this suggests. Okay. I think they're down at 12 only because they lost some production from key guys, but I think they got guys that are going to step up. And Altmaier is a seasoned, experienced Big Ten quarterback. He knows how to get the ball to playmakers, and he'll continue to do that.
Which your quarterback can make a better receiver.
Yes, yep.
I mean, if he's putting the ball where it needs to be in stride, not putting them in positions where they have to make crazy catches or even catches that are going to injure themselves.
Agreed.
Your quarterback plays into these rounds. I'm sorry. It plays into these rounds. I just want to know why we don't have Smith here on the right. Why is this Yoho from USC on the right-hand side? Why we don't got Smith over there?
You know, well, Smith is on the cover of everything this year.
Well, and he should be.
Heisman stuff or whatever. USC's got some talent. They really do.
I'm sorry. I don't know who you are. That should be Smith. All right, let's go to the O-line.
Yeah, let's go to the O-line. So, these were, for whatever reason, there's a whole bunch of rankings, but these were 2 that I really keyed in on this year as what's important for Big Ten play. And maybe it's a little bit of Penn State bias because...
Oh, look who's number 1.
Yes, right, exactly. But I do think these are important.
Yeah. They're super important.
Super important for this year. So Penn State, we said, number 3, they're bringing back they're bringing in a bunch of transfers.
Yeah.
It's a complete different story at offensive line than it was wide receiver.
Sure.
They're bringing almost everybody back. They're bringing 4 out of 5 starters back. And the 5th guy played a ton last year. They're bringing back probably 8 out of 10 that was in the 2 deep last year.
Okay.
They're set up to have one of the best offensive lines in the entire country.
Okay.
Just absolute maulers. If you go back and you look last year, the offensive line just kept getting better and better. If you look at that, if you go back and watch that Big Ten championship game against Oregon, Oregon got out to a little bit of a lead, and if you're a Penn State fan, it's kind of a shame because they were running the ball down Oregon's throat.
Yeah.
But when you're down 2 touchdowns, you can't just keep running.
Right.
You gotta score a little quicker.
Yes.
They did struggle against Ohio State last year running the ball. Ohio State had top 5 defense, probably top 2 or 3 defensive line. But offensive line, Penn State's bringing everybody back. They should be really good. Same thing with Oregon. They're bringing a ton of people back.
Yeah.
Should be really, really good, which should be good for the run game, good for a new young quarterback and Dante Moore.
Right.
Iowa, they just do what they do.
Yeah.
Like they
the lines are where that's their bread and butter, man.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And Ohio State, last year they had a lot of injuries. They had to move people around. I think their starting center at one point got moved out to like left tackle or something. Like it was absolutely crazy. where they had to move people around, and it worked out good enough. They had some growing pains during the season, but once they got to the playoffs, they were rolling. So I they have so much talent on that team. They did lose some players. They're plugging in some new starters, but with the talent they have and their track record, they'll figure it out. I like them at 4 on the offensive line. And again, another pleasant surprise. Indiana at 5.
Yeah.
I think there's so many people out there that just assume Indiana, that was their one-year wonder, flash in the plan.
Yeah.
They got lucky because they had an easy schedule.
Yeah.
They may not do just quite as well record-wise this year, but they are going to be a contender in the Big Ten. They brought in a quarterback over from California who played real well. They've got a good, solid offensive line, good, solid wide receivers. I think a good defense. And if you could, and
a hell of a coach,
a really good coach. If you have a top 5 offensive line in the Big Ten, you're going to win some games. You're going to do well. Michigan there at 6, they always have. Usually, you'd expect them to be in the top 1 or 2 spots.
Right. Yeah.
So the fact that Penn State is basically using other than the cheating part, they're using the formula that Michigan used 2 years ago.
Okay.
Bring back all these 5th, 6th year guys with a lot of experience. Big maulers on the offensive line and the defensive line, and really try and play a physical game. And Michigan's still trying to do that, but they're in this rebuild, from Harbaugh leaving.
Yeah.
So even at 6, not too bad. Nebraska at 7, again, I think that's good for Dylan Raiola. Rutgers, I think, will continue to be competitive. They're there at 8 with the offensive line.
That's
good. Greg Schiano, that's what he does.
Yeah.
They're gonna run the ball. They're gonna have good offensive line play unless their 9 starters go out, like what happened to them last year, which was really rough.
Yeah.
But they're going to do well. And again, we see Illinois there. Bringing back an experienced quarterback. They got a pretty solid offensive line.
Yeah.
I think solid wide receivers coming back.
Yeah.
I think defense is going to be good too. So to me, this year, Illinois has the potential to be the Indiana of last year.
Yeah.
They're not going to catch people by surprise because the way
they
Indiana
were decent last. Yeah.
Yes, but they were decent last year. I think they're going to take a step forward and be real competitive. So let's look at the bottom. Again, the teams. What are the teams I told you were going to struggle this year? Maryland, UCLA, Purdue.
Yeah.
They're rebuilding. I honestly actually think UCLA, as the season goes on, their offensive line, at the end of the year rankings, they may get up there in the top 10. But that's where they're rebuilding. They got a lot of new young players, new young starters, and they're rebuilding on the lines. But those 3 teams, maybe not as much UCLA, but definitely Maryland and Purdue, I think, are going to struggle this year. And the easiest indicator of that is their offensive line production coming back.
I mean, USC there at 12, a little concerning. We talked about them having good receivers, but you need a good line to give the protection to the quarterback to get it to the receivers. So, maybe a little bit lower there than what I would like to see from USC. Not surprising, Maryland, UCLA, Purdue, just complete rebuild mode here for Purdue. I mean, that happened so fast. Yep. Oh, my goodness gracious. Of course, Odom going there. I got my UNLV shirt on. He's moving from UNLV to Purdue, and he's got a lot of work to do. And I do like, you kind of mentioned the middle of the Packers are just above that Rutgers, that Illinois, that Nebraska. I mean, that's what you think of. Yep. Solid, good, not maybe top tier, but solid, that they'll do the job. They'll get the job done. That's what I want to see from them. And really, when you look at the top 6, again, outside of last year, you're like, hey, one of these things is not like the other, and that's Indiana. You would expect Michigan to be up there and Indiana to be down. But, this is across the board, as you've been saying. This isn't a wide receiver room or a quarterback room or this team is now in the top 5 of the Big Ten. That's where we're at.
And I think they're going to show that again this year, whether they make the playoff again or not. I think they'll compete to maybe be in the 5th, a little bit on the outside looking in. But I think they're going to show they're a top 5 under Kurt Cignetti. They're a top 5, top 6 team in the Big Ten consistently. The way he recruits, the way he brings people in, and the way he coaches. And so if we see that 2 years in a row, then that needs to be the new standard for how we look at Indiana. I do want to talk a couple things real quick. You mentioned you were concerned with USC being down there. That's been the big difference, Oregon and USC, okay? Both of them, a lot of money, a lot of talent, all those things. Oregon came in and ran through the Big Ten last year. USC had their struggles. We said these new PAC teams that came over, who was going to be able to play physical in the Big Ten? Oregon showed last year that was them.
Yep.
This year it's the moment for USC, and that's going to be make or break. They've got a quarterback, they've got wide receivers. I think their defense is going to be improved. But when they lost a lot of really close games last year. I mean, like 1-point games.
Yep.
And whenever it was the end of the game was on the line, and they had a 3rd and 1, or they had to stop a 4th and 1,
right?
They couldn't get the first down. They couldn't stop the other team from getting the first down, and that was the difference between maybe like a 10-win season and wherever they end up 7 or 8 wins,
something like that.
Yeah,
or damn close to 500.
Right?
They made, so I think they 7 and 5.
Yeah. There were those close games were. That's how they were decided. That's where they need to step up this year.
Yeah.
I'm not necessarily worried. They don't need to get up in the top 5, but if they can be a top 10 offensive line with what I think Maeva will do well, they have the skill positions, and I think their defense will be improved. The one that concerns me, another team that I've told you I really think is going to struggle this year. Their schedule is murderer's row. Wisconsin at 11.
Yeah.
Wisconsin does they don't have the latitude to not have a good offensive line. USC, they have the athletes, they can run past you, all that stuff.
Right.
Wisconsin, that's not them.
No.
They need to run the ball, they need to be physical, they need to play good defense, and if they don't have a top 10 offensive line in the Big Ten, they are going to struggle this year, and I think that's going to happen, unfortunately.
Yeah.
They might even be a little bit better than they were last year as a team, but have a worse record than last year. And so I worry about Luke Fickell. This might be it. We had some dwellers say before that they thought he'd be fired midseason.
Even mid-year, yeah.
I don't think so. I think the way Wisconsin does things, he'll make it through the end of the season. But I have a hard time seeing him go past this year.
Well, I mean, I'm going to talk about the Mountain West with 12 teams and the schedule that can change. We're talking 18 teams.
Yes.
Massive changes just based on the schedule that you get. I'm going to get into that again with some 12 or with 12 teams in a conference, 18, a whole different animal there. So schedule's really, really important for the Big Ten, no doubt about that. So that's great stuff. I think, Steve, if I'm not mistaken, you have some other goodies for us.
I've got some picks. I've got some early line picks.
Oh, we are getting into it. Dwellers, hang on to your seats.
Well, I was going to ask.
We're doing what we do.
We're doing what we do. This is why we started the show. JY and I, years ago, we used to trade picks, Mountain West picks, Big Ten picks. We made some good money, I'll say, on these picks, and we want to share them. Well, we want to share them. I made some good money off your picks that you gave me. I don't know. And I made good money off mine.
I get a little crazy sometimes.
Yeah, you like those parlays.
I like them parlays.
Yeah, sucker bets. This is why we started the show. This is what we love to do. So I got some tonight. Do we want to go right into those, or do you want to see? I know you like to look at the comments.
Yeah, I haven't been down at the comments because I was told I shan't touch my mouse.
Yes.
And so I haven't been touching my mouse. So let's, real quick, before we get into some of the picks, Steve has some early lines for everybody. And again, I want to give a shout out to everybody. I know Eric, I see Eric's on here, Fia's on here, several people that joined us for the pre-show on X. That was a lot of fun, and we're going to try to keep doing that. Well, we're branching out here on the Big Mountain. Mm-hmm. The other thing I want to say is, before I forget, we got some new merch going on. Yes. You got a new merch shirt. Yep. I got a new merch hat, and the new merch store will be out within a week or two. And the biggest part about the new merch store is it's free shipping. So the prices that you see are the prices that you pay, plus tax depending on your state. I can't talk about taxes. Mm-hmm. Taxes. The one thing you can't get rid of.
Taxes.
But I can get rid of shipping.
Yeah.
And so I can tell you, Steve and I went, we saw the product, we touched the product.
Yeah,
Steve has the product on. I am a trucker hat, or some will call it a dad hat kind of guy.
I think
just kind of that non-structured. And we're solid on the hats. We're solid on the polos, the shirts, everything like that. We are super excited for this new store. I hope you guys are too. And we're not doing the store for us to make money. We're doing it to have fun.
Yes.
And we think we have a pretty solid logo.
Absolutely.
I don't know.
And if our dwellers want to have some merch, they want to look good, they can get some merch. And whatever proceeds we do get, we're going to use for stuff like going to Mountain West Media Days.
Well, Sargent asked us about Mountain West Media Days. We will be at Mountain West Media Days literally in 2 weeks from today. We said it on the pre-show. We're probably going to go live on X every so often. Maybe show you a little bit behind the scenes. If we can get some quick take interviews, we'll be doing that. I see the stables on here. You know I'm going to give some love to the Broncos. I'm going to give love to every Mountain West school. We're going to be doing interviews. We're going to be pumping out so much. Our producer is going to have to quit his job.
So, yes.
Well, for a couple days. He'd take a couple personal days.
What is this beer zombies that we're talking about?
I don't know, but apparently we have to meet up at Beer Zombies
Let's do
for
it.
the Mountain West days.
I love it.
I will let anybody that is close to Vegas know. We will definitely do a meet and greet. Sergeant would absolutely love to meet you, Sergeant Morhew, in Vegas. I know we have many other people that dwellers that live in Vegas, in or around Vegas, that would love to meet up. We will make sure we tell you guys what we're planning to do, where we're going to be. Would love to meet up with you. We'll have stickers. We'll have koozies. We'll have all kinds of good stuff for any dweller that's in Vegas. I can't guarantee Beer Zombies. I don't know about that.
I mean,
but
the first word, I mean, it's
beer something. Yes. Appreciate the super chat, Sergeant. And yes, we absolutely need to do some meet and greet. Or just not even meet and greet. That makes it sound like we're somebodies. We're nobodies. Would love to meet our dwellers, give you some swag at the Mountain West Media Days. So we appreciate that. Let's
drink some beers together and talk football.
100%. And we'll give you a sticker or two. All right, let me go back up, Steve. You asked about chats. We'll quickly peruse because we have a lot of people in the chats and we love the chats. Jerry says the UNLV shirt looks great. Thank you very much. I haven't worn this in a while. I'm like, I got to wear my UNLV shirt. Absolutely. I haven't worn this for a while. Somebody wants a hug. Stable's hugging everybody. Let's see a big hug between you guys. Is he talking about you and me?
Oh,
I don't know what he's talking about. We're not going to go there right now. Let's see. What do we got here? I see a question mark. Fia, I went to a casino here in Oregon, threw $20 on Georgia Tech to win the ACC. If it hits, it turns into $300. Do you think they have a chance? I don't follow the ACC. I have no freaking clue.
You know, I would say, for me, heavy favorite Clemson.
And you didn't put the P in there.
Clemson.
There you go.
And honestly, I would go. My next favorite would be Louisville.
There you go.
I really like Louisville. I think they're geared up for a good season this year. Georgia Tech, I think. I mean,
that's a solid bet. $20 to win 300.
Yeah.
I'm okay with that long stuff. I'm okay with that.
They're in my next group.
I'm okay with that. Yeah. A couple upsets there, and you're good to go. I'm totally down with the payout on that bet.
So Joseph Lindley said, "Is the Penn State hype real this year, Steve? Can they finally overcome?" I mean, the thing is we'll see. I mean,
that's a cop out.
Well, so I'm gonna get
please
into it.
Keep going.
So. They've been right there. They've been knocking on the door. I think they're improved from last year. I think they're using that formula that Ohio State used last year and Michigan used the year before. Retain your players. Bring back the experienced. Experienced quarterback and experienced offensive line.
Yeah.
They got two of the top, I think, two top 10 running backs in the country. Two guys that both ran for 1,000 yards last year.
Yeah.
Their tight end room is still stout. Their defense should still be really good. And they're bringing in the best defensive coordinator in the country who just won a national championship with Ohio State. So they have everything there. I mean, the thing is there's two key games this year. They're going to host Oregon for the whiteout. I think they beat Oregon. And then they're going to go to Columbus and play Ohio State. I mean, that's always it's a coin flip. When you go back and you look at 2016, 17, and 18, they beat Ohio State. In 2016, the next 2 years, they lost by 1 point on one play. So over a 3-year period, the difference between being 1-2 against Ohio State and being 3-0 against Ohio State was 2 combined points. So you never know. And last year it came down. I think they'll be a good team. I think that Matthew says Franklin won't win a championship. Well, you're already wrong because he won the Big Ten championship in 2016. Maybe you're talking about a national championship. I don't know.
Probably.
Could be. He didn't clarify. But if they win the Big Ten championship again this year like they did 10 years ago, I mean, they're going to be right there. They're going to be another top 4 seed, and then you see what happens in the playoff. Last year, Ohio State had a disappointing regular season.
Yeah.
They ended the season getting their butts kicked again by Michigan. People were calling for Ryan Day's head, and then they went on a run in the playoffs. So you never really know what's going to happen. I think they'll be a contender. I think they're a little bit better this year, and we'll see. That's all you can say.
Shout out to Will. He's using the correct terminology from last week. The cellar.
The cellar.
We are checking the cellar here.
Yes.
With our commenters. Thank you, Will. Well done. And yes, GBR, Laramie, War Memorial Stadium, finishing the press box renovation and box.
Yeah.
And I'm going to do my darndest to get into the press box for a game this year.
Got to.
Yeah, I'm going to try. And there was one other thing.
I'm sure if you can get there, they will be happy to oblige you and meet your credentials together.
It's much more about me getting there than it is about me being in the press box. But they are doing a full reno there. It looks awesome. And so, yeah, okay, so what we got next, Steve, you're going to do a couple picks.
Yes.
A couple kind of early value picks.
Yes.
Then we're going to get into some Mountain West, and we'll get into some PAC.
Yeah.
So for all of our PAC fans, the JEHs, the squeezed monies, the whomevers, we got some PAC stuff for you coming. But let's get into the picks, Steve. Go ahead.
And like you said, this is what we do. This is why we started the show. We love sharing picks, whether you can actually bet in your state or you just like to have fun and make your own picks week to week. We like to share some with you. And especially this time of year, we always talk about you can get value if you jump in early.
Can I say two things
Sure.
before we get started?
Yeah.
Number one, shout out to our producer because I love this graphic.
It is awesome.
This whole, like, we're at the drive-in theater thing.
Yes,
It
I
is
love
my
it.
jam. I freaking love it. Shout out PW Baker
And
Production.
I literally dropped these picks on him before he walked in the door. And
This
in a
poor-
short amount of
our
time,
poor-
he turns all this around.
Well, and what I'm going to do, Steve, JY's getting low in his brew. And
Okay.
instead of having our poor producer have to do something else because you used and abused him so hard today, I'm going to let you go forward with your picks while I get another brew.
Okay.
Would
do
you
that.
like something?
No, I'm good.
Speaking of brew, we're going to have our second, shout out Sierra Nevada Sam,
Okay.
our second Big Mountain Brew,
I'm ready.
Dweller Brew, on our channel next week. It is from Washington State. It will be here. I have confirmed with the shipper. It will be here for next week. The Old Crimson Lager from the Cougs.
Well, my granddaddy taught me the best beer is free beer. So
Well,
we'll start there and we'll see how
let's
it
do
tastes
this.
and we'll do the taste test live.
You keep going. You
Okay,
do your
I'll
picks
keep
because
going.
that's what we do.
All right.
I'm a loser and I'm going to go get more brew.
You go get some beer.
Okay.
I'll talk football and make some picks here. All right, let's start out. Again, these are early line picks. I'm not necessarily picking them because I think, this is who's going to win the game. I'm telling you that I think the lines will end up moving in these games. I think you can jump in now early and get some value here. So I'm going to start with Nebraska at Cincinnati. Nebraska is the 6.5 point favorite. I think that this line will move a lot. I can see this getting into double digits. So I'm taking Nebraska to easily cover that 6.5. Okay. So moving on to the next game, and we're gonna see also Nebraska. We're gonna see a recurring theme here. Michigan at Nebraska. Michigan is a 3.5 point favorite. I think by the time we get to the season, especially into the first few games, that narrative is going to flip a little bit. It's Michigan. It's the brand. I think people are going to Vegas and some others are going to realize that where Michigan has some holes this year. And I really think Nebraska is a much improved team. So Michigan is the favorite, but I'm taking Nebraska plus the 3.5. I wouldn't be surprised to see this line move closer to a touchdown, honestly, as we get closer to the season and get into some games. I think Michigan is going to struggle, especially early this season. They're still rebuilding that talent. They still have some kind of chaos going on, with all the stuff, the investigations, the sanctions. They're bringing in a new quarterback. They have a big rebuild. They lost a lot on the defense last year. So again, I'm going with that Nebraska plus 3.5. I could see that flipping over the 0 and Nebraska end up being a small favorite, like a 1.5 point favorite or something like that. So get in now, get in early, and you can get Nebraska plus the points.
Can I just say something?
Yes.
I would love to know if there's another live podcast that has one of their co-hosts leave the set
and go get some beer.
To go fill up their drink.
I mean, if not, they're not doing it right.
Absolutely. All right.
Okay.
Keep going, Steve.
So I had 2 Nebraska picks out of 7. I only have 1 Penn State pick, so please, this is not a homer pick, but one of the biggest games of the year. Oregon at Penn State. Penn State's the 4.5-point favorite. This is the whiteout, September 27th. It's early in the season. I think Oregon could maybe struggle a little bit early in the season. I'm not convinced. I'm not sold on Dante Moore. Yeah. I know you said, and I love Dan Lanning as a coach there. I'm not convinced Dante Moore is that guy yet, or that he'll be ready to be that guy so early in the season.
Yeah.
This is a really challenging place to play. A lot of people say, oh, Penn State, their record is only this and this in the whiteout. Well, yeah, because it was against like Michigan and Ohio State every single year for so long. But when they are the favorites in the whiteout, what we saw the last couple of years, they absolutely dominated against, was it Minnesota and Iowa, or was it Illinois last year, and Iowa the year before. This is what they do when they are the favorite under James Franklin. When they're under the favorite, he's like 80 or 90% against the spread. I think this line, but more importantly, I think this line will move because I'll pick this game again as we get closer.
Sure, right.
But for now, this is an early line pick, 4.5. I think this line moves close to a touchdown. I don't know if it gets over the touchdown, but I definitely I see it moving to 5.5, 6.5. I think this is the best line you're going to get this year. So if you're looking for value, the Penn State to cover the 4.5, I'm taking that all day, every day.
Remind me the date.
Okay.
No,
September 27th.
Oh, it's fairly early.
It's fairly early, yes.
No, that doesn't really help. If I'm Penn State, I want it to be late October.
Well, so they're gonna have Ohio State in, I think, November, which to them I think is the bigger game. Oregon at home, I think they want to jump on Oregon again. We talked about the Big Ten championship game last year. They were able to run the ball on Oregon. Now, Dylan Gabriel was amazing in that game. I forgot the receiver who's now in the NFL. They had multiple receivers. Those guys aren't there. Those guys that got Oregon that big lead over Penn State are not there. Okay. And a young, inexperienced quarterback's going to come in, and his 3rd or 4th start is going to be on the road.
Well, that's true.
In Happy Valley.
That's true. Okay.
For the whiteout, which every coach that you talk to, an expert, says the hardest place to play is at Penn State, especially for a whiteout. So,
okay. So the great point, early in the season.
Yes.
I actually was thinking more weather, cold, but early in the season without having those reps, great point there. Yes. Yep. Okay. You countered me well.
All right. Good. Well, I thought about this for a little bit.
I would think so.
Yes.
You're making picks because we're getting legit on the Big Mountain.
So we're going to see a continuing trend here a little bit. Indiana at Oregon is my next. So we had 2 Nebraska games to start off.
This one's going to be good.
We're going 2 Oregon games. Oregon is this is at Oregon, Autzen Stadium, which I want to get out there so bad. Yeah. Great atmosphere, so loud. I have a ton of respect for the Oregon program, for that stadium out there, whatever. Close your ears, JEH. But it's a tough place to play. However, 14.5-point favorites, I think, is just absolutely crazy. I think this line will move. I think Indiana is going to be really good again this year. I think Oregon's they're in danger of maybe taking a step back because they were so good last year.
Taking a step back, they're basically the best team in the nation until they lost.
Exactly. So that's what I'm saying is they ran through the Big Ten. Yeah. It's not. I'm not really crapping on them by saying they could take a step back.
No. Yeah.
So I think this line will change. 14.5. I could see this line coming down to 10.5 or easily getting under double digits, like an 8.5, 9.5. Oregon will still be the favorite and probably slightly over a touchdown.
Okay.
But 14.5 is crazy. So I'm taking Indiana plus 14.5. I don't think you're ever going to get a better line than this from now until game time. Okay. So that's kind of my criteria for these early picks. You can get them Indiana now plus a touchdown plus, on the other side of the two touchdowns. Two touchdowns plus.
That's a lot of points. Although it's in Oregon,
it's
a tough place to play, but that's a lot of points against 2 of the top 5 or 6 teams in the Big Ten. That's a lot of points.
It's a lot of points. All right. So next game. Ohio State at Illinois. This is going to be a similar kind of concept. Ohio State at Illinois. The line, Ohio State is 13.5-point favorites at Illinois. Okay.
Yep.
Again, I think it's a big line. Not quite as big as that Oregon line. But I'm going with Illinois plus 13.5. I love getting that many points. Again, Ohio State, comparing them to, they won the national championship last year, right?
Yeah.
So me saying I think they could also take a step back. They're breaking in a new quarterback. And I think Illinois was already pretty darn good last year, and I think they're going to take a step forward. They have that fifth-year experienced quarterback. It's going to be at Illinois. Ohio State's going to be the favorite. Let's not kid ourselves.
Right.
But I think Illinois has a chance to upset them, and I think the line will move on this. I think it's too close to 2 touchdowns right now. It's way too close. This is another one where I think it will come down probably under double digits. Get
10,
to like
yeah.
the 9.5, maybe get to 8.5 if Illinois is doing really well, and Ohio State stumbles.
Yeah.
Ohio State's still going to be a touchdown plus favorite.
Yeah.
But I think this line is going to move, and that's, again, what I'm focusing on here, grabbing that value. I don't think between now and game time you will get a better line than this of Illinois plus 13.5.
Agree.
Okay. Washington at Michigan. Again, this is one of those, Washington struggled a little bit last year, but I think they really showed improvement.
They did, yes.
I can never remember what their quarterback's name is, but he really came on. He played in the bowl game last year, looked really, really good. Michigan is getting the benefit of the doubt with bettors.
Yeah.
And basically everybody, just because they're Michigan. They're 2 years removed from a national championship. Michigan is 10.5-point favorites.
Oh, my.
I think that's way too high.
Wow.
So I'm going with Washington plus the 10.5. I love the value there. I love getting over the 10 points.
Yeah.
Again, I think this is I think this will come down to less than Michigan. Probably still the favorite unless they totally implode.
Sure.
But it's at the Big House. Michigan will probably still be the favorite heading into this game. But I could see it getting under a touchdown. Having Michigan be like a 6.5-point favorite. I don't think it'll stay in the double digits. I think this is the most points that you're going to be able to get. So I'm grabbing that Washington plus 10.5.
There's certain numbers that
Yes.
just, I'm sorry, but they scream out to me. That 6.5 to 7.5.
Yes.
That 9.5 to that 10.5.
Right.
That 13.5 to that 14.5.
Yes.
This is amazing value. I agree with you. For two teams, I mean, Washington probably ended up better than what you expected last year because they did excel into the end of the season.
Yep.
And, we don't know what's going to happen with Michigan.
No.
I mean, we don't, not just from the team aspect, from the coaching aspect. We've talked about this. There could be a lot more yet to come with Michigan. And at 10.5 here, that just seems, I'm a little surprised by how big some of these spreads are. And I appreciate you taking the points with some of these teams. We're talking Big Ten football. We're talking, this is not SEC blow somebody out. I love what you're giving us here, Steve.
And we've talked about this the last 2 years. You can really get some value here because these early lines, a lot of it is just on the brand.
Yes.
Or how they did in the past.
Yes.
As we get into the season and they start playing games this season, the lines will get better. Basically, Vegas will get dialed in on how good they are this year.
Yeah.
So this is a great time to grab these lines. You continue to see the trends. And my last game, I think, follows the trend as well. USC at Oregon. So it is, again, another game at Oregon, at Autzen Stadium. Tough game. Oregon is a 13.5-point favorite, okay? To me, I think USC is going to take another step forward. I think Maeva is going to do really good there. I think they have good skill position players for him.
Yeah.
I think their defense improved last year under Danton Lin. I think it will take another step. They've increased the talent level there. Again, am I ready to say USC is going to go make the playoff and win the national championship?
Sure.
No, not yet.
Right.
But I think they will make another incremental step forward. And I still think Oregon could take a bit of a step back from last year. In a year that, again, they ran through the Big Ten.
Yeah.
They could be, they could step back to like 9 or 10 wins this year. They're breaking in a new quarterback. They lost those big wide receivers from last year.
Yep.
So I'm going with USC plus the 13.5. I would love it if it was like Indiana plus 14.5. I might be betting a lot more money on it, but still 13.5. I like it. That's a lot of points. I think that line will get closer as we get closer to the season and they start playing some games. This game will be after the Oregon at Penn State game.
Oh, wow.
So if Oregon goes in and they get, beat by Penn State solidly, you could see this line changing a lot, especially USC comes in. They got Maeva, who maybe Vegas is still looking as a little bit of an unknown.
Yeah.
But if he comes in and starts playing well, you could see this line shift a lot where probably Oregon will be about a touchdown favorite, like a 7.5, 8.5. But I think it will definitely come down under that 10-point threshold. So I'm loving the USC plus 13.5. I don't know that you will get a better line for that between now and game time.
Well, while I want to love this, and while how much I want to love Maeva and everything, I just don't trust USC.
Yeah, well,
I like a lot of your picks. I do, and I like that you're betting the underdog because we're talking double digits. We're talking 2 touchdowns in the Big Ten, like I said. Those are some massive spreads against teams that really probably aren't that different from each other.
Yes.
So I really like these early lines.
Yeah, and as we get closer to game time, like we'll look at these games more and we'll see how Maeva's playing, we'll see how USC is playing, we'll see how Dante Moore. I mean, that's a huge part.
Yeah.
For now, it's not so much about looking at the teams. It's more about where do I see some value? Where do I see that the line could definitely change? Where do I see that I think the line is more based on their brand and their reputation from the years past and not necessarily what this team could look like. And these were 7 games that I singled out, and I think there's some good value. So
I'll tell you what, Steve, I'm going to have to re-watch our episode here so I can make some bets.
Love it.
Because I love some of what you told me. I haven't even looked at the lines yet. I'm way behind you. I'm still figuring out who's... Phil Steele staying is good in the Mountain West.
You know me, I love these lines. I'll probably
it's good stuff, man.
Sunday morning, I'll be sitting on my throne at 6 a.m. texting you some lines. That's
how we roll, man. Yep. Sunday is the time to get your bets in.
Yeah.
When you're confident about some teams, Sunday is the day.
Yep.
So shout out to Bob. You got a Penn State fan here. I feel like Bob has been here maybe before, maybe a little while back. Hopefully he's still on, but hey, we are, Bob. Well done with the Penn State. I know you got a fan here with Steve. We've got a lot of other great people. Killer Demo is in here. We've got, isn't Franklin really bad against top 5? Like 2 or 30 or something. I think that's probably true. But when Ohio State's in the top 5 all the time and your number's 6, I guess that kind of happens, although I am sticking. Big Mama made it in tonight. Right. Big Mama 69. Good old dweller right there. Scott Sanders, GBR. We got Atomic Skull. We're missing our boy Cray Cray.
Oh yeah.
What's his name? Love Muscle.
Love Muscle. Where's
2
Love
in a
Muscle?
row, Love Muscle. Yeah, you don't let us down. Joe, Big Pac-12, welcome Texas State. Go Cougs. There you go, Joe. We're going to get to the Pac-12 here in just a few minutes. I'm going to talk Mountain West first, and then we'll get to the Pac-12. Of course, we have to talk about the Pac-12 because there's a lot going on right now, Steve.
Yeah. Well, Sophia Corvetta, I think, from what I remember, Fia maybe lives out in Oregon. Does that sound right?
I don't know.
Went to the casino. They could only bet week 0 and week 1.
Oh, yeah.
Well, you could do, I'm not saying you should do this, but what you could do is one of my buddies, he lives in a state that doesn't allow sports betting. So he drives across the border, goes to like a restaurant and sits and makes some bets on whatever online sports book he chooses.
Yeah, whatever you can get
and then drives back into the state.
Assuming you're that close to it, yes. Fia says yes. You are correct,
Yeah.
Steve. Well done.
Yep.
And of course, John's in the house. We got some Penn Staters up in here tonight.
JEH says Dante Moore sometimes confuses DBs for wide receivers. Now I know JEH never met a duck that he liked.
Yes.
But he's right. Like he's not wrong.
Yeah.
A lot of the hype around Dante Moore is based on his 5-star pedigree.
Right.
And the fact that he's going to Oregon, who's had a great track record.
Right.
But look at the guys that Oregon brought in under Dan Lanning.
Yes.
They brought in Dylan Gabriel, who was a 5th-year starter and who had played great at Oklahoma.
Yeah.
They brought in, what was the other guy's name the year before?
Nix.
Bo Nix, who had a lot of experience in the SEC. Dante Moore had just a little bit of experience at UCLA, and when he got a chance to play, did not play well. Okay. He was looked at as a bust, and then suddenly he goes to Oregon, and everyone's putting a lot of faith in him, and he may turn out to be really good, but it might not be this year. Like, he may need some time to develop.
Well, Will's giving you a shout out. He's saying everybody that lives in Utah knows you just drive across the border into Nevada.
There you go.
Because everything's legal in Nevada.
Yeah.
And you make your bet.
Right. Yeah. Love it.
So shout out to Will. Appreciate you being here. Appreciate all you dwellers being here. We're going to get now to the West Coast. I know we're almost an hour in, Steve. But, you did what we do.
Yes.
Again, I know we said this, but we started this for betting picks.
Yep.
That's why we started this show. And Lord knows it's gone a little bigger than that.
Yeah, we drink some beers now and then, and sometimes we have some guests on.
Yeah, a couple guests every so often. Yeah. So let's get to the Mountain West next, and then we'll get to the Pac-12. Lots of stuff going on with the Pac-12, and I want to hit on a bunch of different things. Not deep stuff, but just ping a lot of different stuff, and I want to hear what you have to say. Yeah. So I'm going to quickly go over the Mountain West here, football preseason, and this isn't JY's preseason. This is Phil Steele's preseason. One of the magazines that you and I rely on a lot. He does an absolutely fantastic job. It's one of the several resources I use, at least early on in the season, to understand where teams are at. And I think overall he's done well. So I'm going to go through every Mountain West team right now, Steve, real quick.
Love it.
Talk about the team, kind of like what's going on, maybe their big games, and we'll go through it here fairly quickly.
Yep.
So we're going to go through where Mr. Steele, his rankings.
Love it.
Unsurprisingly, Boise State, #1 ranked. Yep. Not surprising. We know what they did last year. The first G6 school to get a CFP spot. Fantastic season. Runner-up for the Heisman there with Genty. I mean, we pumped the living daylights out of Boise and Genty, and I love that we did it because it was a lot of fun.
It was a lot,
and it was well deserving.
So much fun.
A lot of fun. So Boise #1 coming in here for Phil Steele. He actually has. This kind of surprised me. He ranks all the positions as well. He has Maddox Madsen as the #1 quarterback in the Mountain West.
Doesn't surprise me at all.
Now it doesn't surprise me because we follow this kid.
Yes.
A year ago, most people still thought, as of July 2nd, that it wasn't going to be Maddox Madsen. It was going to be Malachi Nelson.
Right.
And I went, y'all don't know what the hell you're talking about. Yep. It's going to be Maddox frickin' Madsen. Yep. And he deserved it. He got it. And he showed it. He's now, according to, again, Phil Steele, the #1 quarterback in the Mountain West. I don't know if that's true or not, but he has a full season under his belt. He knows this offense really well. He has a fantastic vision of the game. Unfortunately, he's not going to be at the Mountain West Media Days because I would love to talk to Maddox Madsen. I don't think he's 21, so he can't be in Circa.
Gotcha.
But this was the one of a few players that I so wanted to have a one-on-one with, and he's not going to be there. So anyway, #1 quarterback Maddox Madsen, in our opinion, absolutely well-deserved. A year ago, everybody went, who the hell's that kid?
Yep.
And we knew exactly who he was.
And they laughed at him.
And
hopefully this year he'll get a little more respect.
Yeah, and they've talked about them being a little more 50-50, a little more even in terms of the run-pass, which they need to be because they don't have Ashton Genty, but also because Madsen is that guy. He's not the bullet slinger, but those guys, they throw picks all the time. Yep. Madsen's a fantastic talent, great quarterback for a Mountain West system.
Yep.
Week 1, they're at USF. Really hard game out of the gate in South Florida. There in late summer. Tough game here. Really interesting to see how the Broncos handle that. And then, of course, the big game everyone's talking about at Notre Dame on October 4th. So they have some serious out-of-conference games here for the Boise State Broncos. And honestly, I got to say, if they want the CFP, they can't have a slip-up with South Florida. And I'm not trying to crap on them, but that Notre Dame's going to be really, really tough. They have some really tough in-conference games with UNLV and whatnot. That USF game, if they want CFP, I hate to say it in week 1, it's almost a must-win.
Yeah, and
Almost.
and they've been doing that. Like they played UCF a couple years ago early.
Yeah.
Last year they went down to Georgia Southern.
Georgia Southern early. Yep.
So
First game of the season.
They're
again.
not afraid to go
They're
and
not.
schedule. I agree. If they want to be like the number one right now, they would be looked at as
They
number
are. They're
one contender
absolutely. I would
for-
say overall they have that CFP spot.
Right, they're the number
They
one
do.
contender, yes.
Right, yeah.
But if they want to stay in that pole position,
Yeah.
they got to go down and handle business versus USF.
Not easy.
No, or pull out a miracle against Notre Dame. But
Well,
I think
yeah.
the path similar to last year, go down and get that win against USF. Just look respectable against Notre Dame.
Sure,
they were
right.
more than respectable against Oregon. Damn near beat
almost
Oregon.
beat.
But
Yeah.
just look respectable. Don't get clowned off the field. And then you go into your Mountain West schedule, and if you go through and you run the table,
Yeah,
you win.
you're fine.
The Mountain you will
Yeah.
you will be in the playoffs
Yep.
for a second year in a row.
100%. So number 2 here, not a surprise to me, but I was really interested to see who Phil Steele was going to have his number 2 team. The very first thing I looked at, who's number 2 in this guy's book? And it's San Jose
Yeah, I like it.
State, a team that I was super down on last year. They proved me wrong, and I will eat that. I'll eat the crow. Completely wrong. They actually have he has number 2 QB here with San Jose State, Walker Egan coming back.
Yep.
Of course, they're at Texas on September 6th. They're at Stanford on September 27th. However, Steve, you talked about schedules with the Big Ten. San Jose State does not play Boise State or UNLV. That is huge for this team to get into the Mountain West Championship game.
Coach Ken, fantastic coach. I'm really hoping to meet him and talk to him at Mountain West Media Days.
You're going to be the guy, man. It's you and him, one-on-one.
It will be it's like a dream come true if I'm able to meet him. And just a solid coach. And they had some sputters last year, especially early, figuring out their offense.
Yeah.
But boy, once they got things going, it was really great. Honestly, that Stanford game, they have Texas. They have no hope. I mean, if they can if they can like
Keep it,
get a lead early
Right.
or just be
Be Wyoming from 2 years
Yes,
ago,
exactly.
where you kept
That's
it close
fantastic.
till the fourth
Best
quarter.
possible scenario.
Right.
Stanford, I'm telling you, I would have right now that game as a coin flip.
Okay.
I don't think Stanford's going to be good this year. I think that gives San Jose State a good chance.
Yeah.
To get a win over a major team like that. And then like you laid out, then having no Boise or UNLV.
Yep.
Honestly, to me, if they play the way they should, they have a path right into the Mountain West Championship game against whoever wins between Boise and UNLV.
Absolutely, I agree with you. You know, I'm anxious for this team this year. I was really down on them last year. You know it. I picked them to be under their win total.
Yeah.
Which they proved me wrong literally in the first couple weeks.
You underestimated Coach Ken.
Well, and I underestimated, honestly, Nick Nash, which
Yes,
they don't
yeah.
have Nick Nash
No.
anymore. But they did bring in some receivers.
Yes.
A lot of kids are coming back, and the coaching staff is phenomenal. So I was super happy to see them as 2. Of course, UNLV, the shirt I'm wearing, number 3. You know, of course, Rebel fans are going to think they should be 1 or 2. I totally understand that. They are the number 2 deep in terms of running backs. I'll tell you, they are stacked within that running back room. They have Lee from Mississippi State. They have Glover from Utah. This running back room is going to be a thing of beauty. Kind of wait and see what happens with the quarterback. They brought in some quarterbacks as well. It's always good to have choices, maybe kind of some ins and outs depending on the game plan that you have. We talked about UCLA. They're home versus UCLA September 6th. If this team has any hope of a CFP spot, they have to win that game. I think it sets up very well for them. But they have to win that game if they want to be a CFP contender. And then, of course, the game, we talked about Boise, October 18th. They're actually up in Boise on October 18th. Huge game for these two teams because it could be the winner of that game plays San Jose State in the Mountain West Championship game. These top 3 teams, I'll tell you what, it's going to be fun.
I'm gonna forgive me, but I'm gonna disagree with you on something regarding the Mountain West.
Okay.
I don't think they have to win that game.
Okay.
We saw last year they lost, to Syracuse, and they still had a really good path.
Yep.
I think if they could show that they go 1-on-1 with UCLA.
Okay.
I mean, they're a Big Ten team. They're bottom half Big Ten. But if they can just show like they go 1-on-1, whether they win or lose, and then you get into Mountain West play with this coaching staff, and then if they can continue to get better and better all season and beat Boise, and then win the Mountain West championship game.
If they go 2-0 against a Boise State, that's a different story.
Yes, then I think it would be similar to last year. Because last year, if they beat Boise in the regular season, and then beat them again in the championship game, they would have been in the playoff even when that loss.
Well, they wouldn't have had to have beat them in the regular season.
True,
I think if they beat them in the championship game. Frankly, here's where I'm at. The winner, unless people really crap on each other,
right?
The winner of the Mountain West championship game
is in the Catbird.
Boise, San Jose State, UNLV.
Yeah,
should be in the CFP.
Yeah,
2 years in a row that the Mountain West takes the team to the college football championship.
Yeah,
that's my opinion. Now, again, we have to see what AAC does. We have to see what everybody else does, but. I don't know, man.
I think a 12-1 collegiate athletics advocate says he thinks UNLV is taking down UCLA. They very might well. I think a 12-1 Mountain West champion that's either Boise or I think UNLV would get in the CFP spot. Though, again, sorry to disagree with you again. I think San Jose.
That's why we're doing this.
San Jose State maybe doesn't have that brand name and brand recognition.
They don't, but they don't play.
I know they don't. So I'm not. I think they're good. What I'm saying is,
for the CFP
spot. I don't think they would be the automatic. I think some teams out east would get the benefit of the doubt over them. Where I think Boise has obviously proved themselves.
But if San Jose State beats Stanford and their only loss. And this is a big one.
It's to Texas.
Yes. How do you not give it to San Jose State?
Well, we would have to see what happened in the East. An Army or a Tulane that has one loss or something.
You know what I say to that? Screw them.
Yeah, my point is San Jose has not built their credit yet. This might be the year that
they've been right there, man.
They've been right there.
And it's San Jose State.
I know.
Dude, they've been pinging on the door.
Yes, but national people don't know that.
Well, screw the national people. So let's put up our first poll. We finally got there, an hour in, and somebody asked about. Let me go back up. I dropped. It was who's going to win the Mountain West. I think somebody asked, and that's not exactly the first poll. The first poll is who's going to be in the 2025 championship game. Not who's going to win the Mountain West, but who's going to be in the game. Boise versus UNLV, Boise versus San Jose State. Or UNLV versus San Jose State or other. I picked the top three, which I agree with Phil Steele. I think these are absolutely the top three teams. But you may be a Colorado State guy. You may be Wyoming's going to be amazing this year, or whatever the case may be. I think what I gave there is the top three is the 90% most likely chance of the championship game. And again, San Jose State.
Yeah, their schedule
in conference. You don't have to worry about out of conference.
Right.
In conference, they don't play UNLV and Boise.
That's a huge
That
advantage.
is massive to make it into that game. So, would love to hear from you guys. Already got 1 minute in. We got 25 votes already in. Smack your vote in there. I'm going to keep going through a couple more, but would love to hear from you, dwellers, what you think is going to be the Mountain West championship game for this fall. Shout out, we've got over 80 people on. Love all of our dwellers. Appreciate all the comments as well. Let's go to number 4 here, Steve. Air Force.
Yeah. Okay.
A team that Phil was high on last year. I went, oh my gosh, I don't know why you're so high.
Yeah.
And they struggled a bit. They were very young. It's an Air Force team that maybe doesn't have the size of everybody else. Here he is again. Love the coaching staff. They know how to run the triple option. That's for damn sure. What works, works. And 4 here, maybe, again, I'm not doing my preview yet. Maybe a little aggressive. Not as aggressive as he was last year, for sure. But maybe a little aggressive. He has them as the number 1 running back room with Calvert being back. They are at, listen to this, Steve.
Okay.
They're at UNLV. They are at San Jose State. They are at Navy. They play Boise State at home, and they play Army at home. That's almost half of their damn season.
Yeah.
That is rough.
Rough, yeah.
That's a lot of tough games.
Right, and they might be a lot better this year, but that schedule, like you said, is rough. I think the problem this year, the top three just seem so far out in front of everybody.
Yeah.
In my opinion, and I think from the national level,
Yeah.
That then who like that it's the next group. I know you're going to get to a few more teams. You know, does Air Force kind of take their place back as being maybe right out of that top group?
Yeah, well, and I think the top three are the top three, 100%. Yes. We definitely have gone down to that next tier there with Air Force. I would not have Air Force as the top of that tier. The next one here, you know, the team that they thought they could make it into the championship game because they had the easy schedule last year, Colorado State, he has them at number 5. Little surprising here. Fowler Nicolasi, he ranks as the 4th best quarterback in the Mountain West. That really surprises me. This is a kid that has been a starter for 2 years. He's been in this system. Honestly, he's probably the best quarterback. I mean, outside of transfers and all this on the jet. I love Maddox Madsen.
Yeah,
I love Maddox Madsen.
You're saying you think he's probably most talented?
I think he's probably the most talented kid.
He's in a good system.
He's in a good system. He gets it. So I'm a little surprised he has Fowler Nicolasi as the number 4 QB. I'm not surprised CSU's at 5. I think they had the benefit of the positive schedule last year for sure. They have UTSA, they have Washington State, they have UNLV, they have Boise, they're at Washington. Again, they're pushing the envelope a bit here with their schedule, which doesn't really work out for them really well. I do have them, you know, again, below the top 3. I have them below Air Force, San Jose State, and UNLV. And I think they're probably better than Air Force, I'll be honest. I think with Fowler Nicolasi, but, you know, again, if we're talking groups, you got that top 3. The CSU's definitely in that second tier.
Yeah.
But I'm a little surprised where he has Fowler Nicolasi. Really kind of surprised by that.
I think, I mean, you know, Phil Seal's always big on returning production.
Yeah.
And long-term coaching consistency. I think that's why he really likes Air Force.
Yeah.
Colorado
He loves Air Force.
Yes, he loves it, yeah. Colorado State, they've just been kind of serial underachievers.
They have, until last year.
Yeah, right.
But again, I put that on schedule. So.
But yes, last year they had a great schedule, like perfectly lined up. Basically what you're lining up San Jose State this
100%.
year. 100%. Colorado State had that last year. And they still, when it came down to it, and they had a chance, the chips were on the table.
Fresno crushed them.
Exactly.
Yes.
Like a Fresno team who had also been underachieving.
They were struggling big time, and it wasn't close.
Right.
I mean, Fresno took it to them. So let's get to, well, first of all, get your votes in real quick. We're going to get to a super chat. I see we have 36 votes. We're going to close this. Who do you think the Mountain West Championship game will have? Here's Boise UNLV, or Boise San Jose State, UNLV San Jose State, or someone else. Get your vote in here real quick. We're going to close this.
If I was voting, I would go Boise versus San Jose State.
Okay. All right, let's close it. Let's see what our dwellers say, and then we're going to get to Justin. We have 47% going back to the well. UNLV versus Boise State. 25% saying other. So I'd love to hear who people think are going to be in there, because apparently I didn't do good enough. You said your number 3 there, about 20% was Boise versus San Jose State. And then UNLV versus San Jose State, only 8%. So certainly the vast majority believe Boise's going to make it back to that championship game yet again. But yeah, about 50% think we're going to get that UNLV matchup again. And I mean, don't get me wrong, I'd love to see it. I'm so excited to see what happens with this team and Dan Mullen and everything else that's going on. So let's get back to, Justin with another super chat. So good to have you back, sir. It seems like when Wyoming is overlooked, the better season they tend to have. I really feel very confident they will be bowl eligible. I can't wait to follow your coverage of the Mountain West Media Days. Well, appreciate that, Justin. We are super excited for the Mountain West Media Days. We are going to pump out, or at least we're planning to pump out, crazy content. It might be silly content in terms of production value.
Yeah.
I mean, not silly like haha, but silly like, wow, these guys don't know what they're doing.
Right.
But we want to pop out gobs of content for you. So thank you. We're super excited as well. And I agree. Wyoming always does better as the underdog. Count us out. And the Pokes are gonna, ride for the brand.
Yep.
That's what we do. When you see them being, I don't want to say favorites, but people are expecting them to be in the top 3, 4, 5. They shit the bed.
Right.
I'm just gonna say it as it is, and agree. Count them out. They usually have the better season. I'm gonna get to Wyoming here and a few more teams.
They like playing the underdog for sure.
They love playing the underdog, we're us against the world type of deal. And Justin, if I make it up to Laramie, which may happen here in October, I will certainly let everyone know. I have not decided if that can happen or not, but I will certainly let you know. And of course, always appreciate you. Go Pokes with another super chat. I mean, he just phenomenal dweller right there.
Absolutely.
Steve.
Well, right below him, Joseph Lindley says, unfortunately, the Bull retired. He'd have kept my Wyoming relevant. I'm interested to hear what you have to say about it. What I would say is Bull, like, to me, he's like a Hall of Fame coach.
Bull's. I was there. Okay, yeah, keep going.
Okay.
I'll give you my thoughts.
To me, when you look at his career, Hall of Fame coach.
Yeah.
I think the problem going forward is they need to. I'm not even really going to comment if he would have been able to keep Wyoming relevant, because I think that's unfair to him.
Sure.
Because when you look at the entirety of his career, in this new era of college football, now we have revenue sharing, we have NIL, we have portal, all that stuff.
Yeah.
They have. I don't know if they have it right now on their staff, or if they need to keep looking, but they have to find a coach that can keep them relevant in the new era, because it's completely different than what Bull dealt with most of his career.
Yeah, I'm not going to judge Bull on whether he could or could not have done that in the new era.
Right.
We don't know. We will never know.
Yeah.
I am a huge Craig Bull fan. I think he was the perfect coach for the Wyoming Cowboys. He coached the way Wyoming wanted to play and vice versa. But I will also say, I think Jay Sawvel, I don't think people quite understood where Wyoming was. I think they thought because of Bull's last year, we were going to go right into another, 8-4 season. And it wasn't quite that easy, as we saw.
Yes.
And I don't really put that on Sawvel.
Right.
Because we are in a new era. You have to be willing to do the transfer portal. You have to be willing to the revenue share, all that kind of stuff. And that wasn't who Bull was.
Right.
Like, he was the old school ride for the brand guy.
Yes.
And as a Wyoming guy, I want that to be a part of Wyoming for forever.
Yes.
But
You have to adapt.
you have to adapt. And I'm not saying Bull would or wouldn't have.
Right.
I'm not going to judge him on that. But I think we're seeing there was a gap between those two things. And I'm hopeful that Jay, can get us there within a year.
Yeah.
Because last year sucked.
I mean, just if they get to bowl eligibility this year, that is a huge.
And just Justin says that, bowl eligible. I to me this year, I'm not looking for 8-4 or 9-3.
Right.
But bowl eligible is absolutely attainable
Yep.
and should happen
Yes.
for the Wyoming Cowboys. 6-6 or 7-5. Without a doubt, I agree with you, Justin, and I think it is attainable. I'm not going cray about it. But I again, he says very confident that they're bowl eligible. I would somewhat agree. I will be surprised if they're not at least a 6-6 team.
Get bowl eligible in 2025. Continue to overhaul your roster and adapt to the new conditions, and then get your program in a position where when we get to 2026, the new look Mountain West, where you're in a competitive position, you can compete for the new look Mountain West championship every year.
So Luis Diaz says LFG PAC. We're going to get to the PAC here in a minute. I know we're going a little long. We're almost actually at 10. My wife is going to be very mad. But we have a lot of things to talk about. So let's go to number 6, Hawaii. They have the number 1, according to Phil Steele, the number 1 wide receiver room in the Mountain West. They have Ashlock and Senecal coming back. I'm really anxious to see what their quarterback is going to be like. He played there at the end of the season. But they have no Boise this year. They don't have to play Boise, which is good for them. You know, nobody, one of the best teams in the league. You don't want to have to play them. But this is one of those teams, you know, they're kind of like CSU. Like, they're kind of on the cusp. I don't know when they're going to break out or if they're going to break out. That whole travel thing's an issue. And you know me, Hawaii and I, we're on tilt all the time.
Jekyll and Hyde.
Jekyll and Hyde. It's number 7, Fresno State. Tons of turnover here with Fresno State. Gilliam is back at running back. I really liked him as a running back last year. Had most of the snaps. Their out of conference is Kansas, Georgia Southern, Oregon State, and Southern. They don't have UNLV on the schedule, but not a very easy out-of-conference schedule there with Kansas, Oregon State, and Georgia Southern. Georgia Southern, an up-and-coming team there. So, you know, I have to do a lot of digging on Fresno State with the new coach, a lot of new players, especially on offense. I would say Fresno's probably my biggest wild card, Steve. They literally are, and at 7, that's an honest spot for them because I gotta learn a lot.
I look at them as a rebuild on par with what San Diego State's been the last couple of years. I mean, there's just no way to tell. They're just a rebuild.
Well, San Diego State's the next team. They're in an 8 massive offensive turnover, which is kind of surprising because Lewis comes in with the Aztec fast. He's an offensive kind of guy, and he loses just about everybody on the offense, which isn't a good look for an offensive coach. I hate to say it. They do return a lot of defense. That was kind of the holdovers from 2 years ago, and what they had, defense was their strong point. Their out of conference isn't bad. They don't get UNLV, so their schedule really isn't awful for them. I have no idea what's going to happen with this offense. I mean, this is a coach that is an offensive coach, and he loses his quarterback. The kid got beaten up last year. Another team that I'm just struggling with. So number 9, Wyoming, Steve. Mm-hmm. Fair enough. You know, you gotta have to understand what they were last year. The part that I really struggle with, they have the quarterback here as number 11, Steve. 11 out of 12 teams. Caden Anderson, I'm sorry. Caden Anderson is not the 11th best quarterback in the Mountain West. He's not.
Well, now, I will say, I believe the way Phil Steele does his rankings is the quarterback room.
Well, the freshman QB they got, he's legit.
Okay.
So Phil Steele, I disagree.
He's overlooking Wyoming.
I think you're overlooking. They do bring back their top 3 receiving core. Of course, John Michael Gillenborg, who is one of, honestly, I'm not saying this because I'm a Wyoming fan, one of the best tight ends in the country. They didn't have him at the start of last year. Really hurt their production when he came back. Amazing stuff. I see them going maybe 2-2 in out of conference, which is fair enough for a Mountain West team. They don't get Boise this year, and I might actually head up to the border war this year. We'll see if I can make that work, Steve.
Awesome.
In the new press boxes, as was talked about earlier.
That'd be awesome.
So the last 3, we've got Nevada at 10, Utah State at 11, and New Mexico at 12. Nevada here, Chuba Purdy coming in at quarterback. I think he's going to be a good quarterback, but here's the similarity between all these 3 teams at the bottom, Steve.
Yeah.
All 3 of them have to play Boise, UNLV, and San Jose State.
Yeah.
Not a good in-conference schedule for Nevada, Utah State, and New Mexico. Of course, Utah State, Bryson Barnes is the quarterback. I was impressed with this kid. And you've got the Bronco Mendenhall factor. You know, at 11 here, I know you can't really put them ahead of that, but there's a lot. I mean, there's upside here at Utah State in year 1 of Bronco that could come to fruition. So
yeah. Real quick on Nevada, did you look at their out of conference schedule?
I did, but I didn't write it down.
They start the season
Michigan,
across the country.
Or Penn State. I'm sorry, Penn State. Yeah.
I'll be honest with you. I already feel bad for Nevada.
You feel bad?
Yeah. It's not a fair fight.
No. And then New Mexico, of course, a lot of turnover. Kochak coming in there. I just hope they can get some stability. That's what they need. They need stability there. You know, we talked with A.D. Lovo here not too long ago. I think he's going to provide some stability. And honestly, as a athletic department, winners of the Mountain West.
Yeah.
They were the best athletic department in the Mountain West. Unfortunately, the football team's a little behind.
Well, and you know, they had come up with a great plan, bringing Bronco in there.
Yeah.
Honestly, I mean, if he had stayed there 4 or 5 years, I think they would be competitive playing for championships in the new look Mountain West.
No doubt about it. If he kept Dampier there, they would be a bowl eligible team this year.
Right.
Zero doubt about
Yep.
that. But it is what it is. All right, let's get to the last item here. I know we're late. We're almost at 10 o'clock Eastern. I have some PAC items, and I'm going to put up the poll right now, and then I'll go through some things. The poll is, do you, our dwellers, believe that the PAC-12 is going to add another full member? I say member, but close enough. Another member. Okay, not full member. They're all full members, aren't they? Not football only. I'm talking another member, whether it's St. Mary's or UTSA or Rice or whoever. Will the PAC add another member prior to June 30th, 2026? So prior to the PAC literally, kind of starting again, July 1st, will we get another PAC member announced prior to that date? So vote below. Second poll of the night. Let us know what you think. Where we're at with the PAC. So, Steve, a couple things here. Number one, our Texas State interview recap was amazing.
Fantastic interview.
We got both President Danfus and A.D. Coryell. I'm sure all of the dwellers watching us right now have already seen that. If you did not, you need to go back. Because I'll be honest, I think we got more info than I even thought we would get from specifically President Danfus about how things went, the timeline of how things went. And so, before I get into some of this grant of rights membership agreement, Steve, what were your thoughts on that interview?
Just two great, transparent guys. Really were open to talk and explain the process and everything. I'll be honest. I was I think I asked 2 follow-up questions, and I was a little nervous to dig too far, but it ended up being that they were open. Yeah. So just a great interview. I'm rooting for Texas State. I know, there's this whole thing of the PAC and the Mountain West and the rivalry on Twitter and talking crap. Whatever, Texas State, wherever they're going to be, I think they're a very good addition to the PAC. I think getting into Texas was very important. We've said that all along for both the PAC and the Mountain West. For the PAC, getting into Texas, I think was great. I think they're a great addition. I'm going to be rooting for that program.
Agree.
I'm just happy for them.
And I'm a fan of the, I don't want to say underdog, the little guy, the school that maybe hasn't gotten the attention they should. And that's really why I latched on to Texas State. When I was first told about Texas State, I'm like, okay, let me look into this. And the further it went on, not only was I being told they were a legit addition potential possibility, as our dwellers absolutely know, the more I loved what this university had to offer. And I'm like, okay, you can't not add this school.
Absolutely. And I think so. There's some fans at the beginning that didn't want them, didn't say they weren't good enough or whatever.
Yeah.
And I think there was a little strategic error made by the PAC leadership of basically setting expectations too high. We're gonna rebuild the PAC, and basically almost kind of making it seem like they were gonna make it as good as it was before. And really they put their sights on we're gonna be a power conference again. Well, it was just never going to happen. I mean, just the way things. So I think where they set their sights at the beginning was they were kind of setting themselves up for failure. But where they ended up now, and this, finishing up the membership, at least for now, getting to 8 members. I think Texas State was a great addition. I like what they're at, but to me, I look at it as like a completely new conference.
Yes,
I think
it is completely new. Yeah.
It's a mistake to look at this that this is the old 100-year-old PAC, the Conference of Champions, whatever. This is a new conference. They built something new, and I think what they built, is a good conference, and it's exciting, and I think Texas State is a great part of that.
Well, I know we have almost 100 people watching. We only have about 40 votes, so get your votes in. I'm not going to close it yet. I want to see what our dwellers say, because our dwellers are pretty damn smart, Steve.
If I was voting, I would say no.
You would say no. Okay. Yeah. I'm seeing a lot of people giving love to Texas State in the chat, and rightfully so. As we talked about, and as I did an episode about, visited San Marcos here about a month or whatever it was ago, and it is a really, you hear college town, but it's a college town, man. It's not a city.
Right.
It's a town that's built around that. And I'll tell you, their football stadium is awesome. You Pac fans, when your team, JEH is a Beeve guy, and when you guys play them for the first time in San Marcos, I would highly encourage you to travel there. As you heard from President Danforth Kelly, you can fly into either UTSA or Austin. It's super easy to get there. It's a straight shot, south or north on a highway. You gotta go. I can't speak highly enough of Texas State. Their facilities are freaking awesome.
And that's the environment you want in college football. College football is not supposed to be NFL light. It's supposed to be college football, the college town.
That's what this is, man. It's what it is.
Environment.
It's a smaller version of State College, Pennsylvania.
Right.
The State College has gotten crazy because it's literally one of the biggest Big Ten schools, one of the biggest freaking universities in the nation.
Right.
Texas State isn't that big, but it's that feel. It's the town is the university and
the connection,
the connection. It's awesome. Squeeze Money says he's fallen in love with Texas State. So glad you can join us. We're getting along, so we're getting a lot of West Coast people on here now, which is fantastic. All right, we've got over 45 votes. Let's close this guy and see what we got. If people think, dwellers think, that we're going to get another ad. 63% say yes. They think we will have another member prior to June 30, Steve. Yeah. They disagree with you.
Yeah, I don't think. I think they're wrong. I think that's a hopeful, wishful thinking.
Well, we'll see. I think if we do get one, I'm going to go back to my my watering hole.
Yeah. And
say it's going to be St. Mary's.
Yeah.
I just don't see another football school.
That's my thing.
Yeah, being added pre June 30, but I could be wrong. Now, I will say, I'm going to put this out there. I made this comment a week and a half ago about this bombshell ninth member. The bombshell ninth member is a football school, but we're going to have to wait and see if that happens. I think we're going to know here in the next couple weeks if that is going to or not going to happen. So, good to have you all on. Clinton Moses says, eat 'em up, cats. That's exactly right. That's their deal. Eat 'em up. All right, let's keep going here. So, PAC-12, grant of rights, and the membership agreement. I want to give a quick shout out to Chris Murray. He's with the Nevada Sportsnet. He's the one he does a lot. I mean, he does, honestly, more than anybody I have seen that gets these documents and puts them on the internet, or Scribe, or whatever the heck it is. I mean, massive shout out to this guy. He does a great job. So the grant of rights document was dated June 9th, 2025. It's effective on, of course, July 1st, 2026. It's a 5-year agreement that will run through June 30th, 2031. Like all grant of rights agreements, irrevocable. It assigns the conference the media rights for their athletic events. And there's going to be separate media rights agreements with the media partners. So a little different. We follow the ACC very closely, and I think that was one of the issues that FSU had with the grant of rights. It specifically said ESPN. Like, these grant of rights, both the PAC and the Mountain West, they don't name who the media partner is. They just say, yes, we're giving you, the conference, our media rights to then go and market. So that's what's happening here with the grant of rights. In terms of their expansion agreement, really their membership agreement, they call it expansion agreement. Two main things stood out to me, and I put this on X both yesterday and today. And I'd love to hear if you have comments on this. So number one, CBS was actually named in the agreement, this membership agreement, multiple times. The media rights, which they say, quote, including without limitation the proposed 5-year agreement with CBS. The original date of this agreement was back in May. So that, when you fill these suckers out, they put the month and then you have to fill in the date or whatever. So this was in May, although what was given to Chris Murray was not the finalized signed agreement. So whether it was, May or early June, we do know that the grant of rights was early June. So be that as it may, we know at least that the Pac-12 knew in advance that CBS was going to be a media partner, not necessarily the anchor media partner that they then came out with, but we knew CBS would be a partner, or they knew they would be a partner, several weeks ahead of the announcement, okay? No other media partner is included in this agreement. CBS is the only one, and it stipulates, literally, CBS, which kind of surprised me. Like, why would we put any media partner's name? CBS, ESPN, anybody. Why would we put this in there? Well, they did. They put CBS. And as we know, I mean, the secondary, tertiary media partners are going to be, CW, ESPN, or who it is. So that's kind of the first piece. Like, what were your thoughts when, I was really surprised to see CBS in the membership agreement. What are your thoughts there, Steve?
Same, and I don't want to just reiterate what you were saying, but I was surprised as well. I feel like what we've seen with the ACC stuff, haven't we learned our lesson kind of thing?
Right.
I don't understand why it needs to be in there. The whole purpose of this, okay, let's grant our rights to the conference, give them the bargaining power. Once you do that, let the conference sign an agreement with the different media partners. So I don't understand it. I don't see the need for it. But honestly, I as I've told you before, I have less and less faith in these grant of rights and these different membership agreements as time goes on. I think that it's funny how they put the word irrevocable in. I want to put in question, quote marks or whatever. So I was very surprised as well. I'll just say that.
And I'm not, I'm not trying to be salacious or I'm not trying to knock the PAC. I don't understand a couple things. It's interesting to me that A, they would put it in their agreement, and B, that they knew this probably, I'm going to guess, about a month before, they came out with it. And it was not said in the agreement that they are the main partner or the anchor partner or the whatever. It didn't say that. But it did list them. They knew partner, it. So, yeah. And it just makes me kind of wonder why that would be. Why did they do that? And again, we're getting into salaciousness, but it just doesn't make sense why they would put that out there. Yeah. There's no need to do that, other than that's the one that they knew. And what we heard from President Danforth, they wanted to have a media deal before they added somebody. And I see people still questioning that. And he was very clear with us. Whether people wanted to believe that or not. And I'll be honest with you, I kind of doubted it at some point. We know they have to have an eighth member. The media deal can come later. It can come in August. Who cares? But he was clear to us that the media deal was first and the addition was second. And call that whatever they did, the announcement of CBS, but that's what they wanted to have happen, and that's what they did have happen.
Yeah, he was very clear and open about that and about the timeline. And and once you hear what he has to say, then the timeline does make sense. That was what they were working on. They got that solidified and then really turned their attention. And he said it got hot and heavy at the end.
Right.
So they really were not pushing on adding that member until they got the media deal solidified. And I do remember you saying at one point that you had basically that the eighth member didn't matter too much. You had seen some speculation, the media deal was going to be based on what they had already. And the eighth member was not going to make a big difference to the value. So that, again, makes sense with their priorities and their timeline, now that we see it at the end.
Well, and it's about inventory.
Right.
It's about how many games are you selling.
Yes.
It's not about who's playing in the games.
Right.
It's not Penn State playing in the games. I know that. It's no Big Ten school. It's everybody under the P2 or the P4. And so it doesn't matter who it is. It's how many games are you selling. I don't care who's playing in. And I'm sorry, I'm not trying to be mean here, but it's not about who's playing the games. It's who can I show at 10 o'clock p.m. Eastern
time slots, inventory
on Saturday night. That's what it's about.
Honestly, I think the only program that matters from a brand perspective, and again, I'm sorry, JEH, close your ears. It's not the Beavs and the Cougs, even though they're the two. It's Boise. Boise is the Boise holds that value. After that, it's just more about, okay, like you said, the inventory, the schools, the time zones, all of that stuff.
Yeah. So I'm seeing some comments, people saying that the stable says, and who is that, the bombshell? I will get there eventually, the stable. Calm down. Calm your horses.
Brad Stanton says CBS wanted Boise.
That was the next one I was going to get to. And I completely agree with that. I totally agree with that.
And it may be that CBS wanted to their name put in the contract so that it's in there, so that like they've got Boise.
They have
thing.
to.
Yes.
Yes. And I still don't believe that because CBS went with the PAC, it means that they're not going to go with the Mountain
Oh,
West.
yeah, sure.
I don't believe that. I'm not saying that they are going with the Mountain West, but I see a lot of, the CBS took the Mountain West deal. Well, yeah, but guess what? They may also offer the Mountain West deal, and they both get literally the same deal for the most part.
You could end up seeing both have multiple media partners.
100%. Yes. And, I'm with Collegiate Athletics. He says he's very surprised that TNT or Turner, kind of wasn't that. I'm waiting on the announcement of Turner. I'm just waiting on that. I will be very surprised if Turner is not involved with either the Mountain West or the PAC. I will be incredibly surprised.
Yep.
That will be probably the biggest thing I get wrong. That Turner is not involved with either of these conferences.
I still think the reason they're not the primary, again, is they're not over the air. I think both conferences wanted Fox and CBS and over the air as to be the primary partner, media partner. And then also, I brought up before, Turner's, they're going through some things, some restructuring.
Yeah.
So they might not be ready at this point to sign some contracts, sign some long form contracts.
Yeah. All right, let's get to the last thing, Steve. Veto power of Oregon State and Washington State. We've talked about this a few times. And in the new agreements, it's clear that, and I put this out on X, that the veto power of Oregon State and Washington State, specific to membership and media deals, ends June 30th, 26. Now, I would say for media deals, they're going to have them by June 30th, 26. Right. So kind of it's irrelevant. But at least in terms of moving forward, they will all have equal voting power amongst the PACs. A PAC come July 1st, 2026. And that was one thing we just kind of didn't know. We saw the entrance agreements. We knew this veto power, as I've been calling it, was afforded these two schools. Now, I will say the one thing that I found interesting was that the Pac-12 Enterprises continues for 2 years past. So through June 30th, 28, the Oregon State and Washington State still have veto power over the Pac-12 Enterprises. And it also goes on to say, it actually specifies about, potential sale of the Pac-12 Enterprises and how that may happen. So I found that to be interesting. It doesn't mean it's gonna happen, but a sale of the Pac-12 Enterprises post June 30, 28 would need this 3/4 vote for all the members. So they still definitely are holding on to that Enterprises a little bit more closely post July 1st, 26 than anything else. So again, just things that I'm throwing out there. I'm not a hater. I'm not a whatever. Just some stuff that was in the documents.
Yeah, I think this almost reminds me. I always go back to the analogy about divorces.
Yeah.
You had the original divorce of the PAC.
Yeah.
The Oregon State and the Cougs and the Beavs are now getting remarried. And they're saying okay, these assets they're mine until we get to a certain point, and if we've been married 2 or 3 years, then I'll let you have some of that.
Right.
And they've been trying to sell the Pac-12 network and Pac-12 Enterprises or whatever, basically since the jump, since everything happened.
Yeah.
I do want to respond JEH real quick, and he's talking about viewership numbers with OSU and WSU. And yes, the thing is the PAC rebuilt around OSU and WSU. But the additions, out of all the additions, Boise is the one they have the brand power and all that. The networks want them.
Right.
But as far as that 8th member, it wasn't going to there was no 8th member that was going to bring either brand power or viewership numbers that was going to change the media. They were just going to be basically a filler. And that's just
giving me a football game.
Exactly.
To show on CBS SN.
So we're not necessarily talking about OSU and WSU. We're talking about who would be that 8th member.
Ezekiel back in the house. Hello again, fellas. Well, Steve, we've made it through almost 2 hours of our episode. Holy crap.
Yeah.
We went for it tonight. I didn't know it was going to be that long. But appreciate everybody going in. I know we didn't get to all the comments, but appreciate all of our dwellers. and we're going to stay on this. So we will have another live episode next week here from the studio, if you want to call it that. And then 2 weeks from now, we will be in Vegas for the Mountain West Media Days, and you have no idea what's going to be coming from us. We may do a live episode. We may do spur of the moment live episodes, X live episodes. We really don't know what to expect because we've never been there again.
I'm excited.
But we're going to be there this year.
It's huge.
Yeah, it's going to be a lot of fun. And as Sergeant asked, we will try to put out something that one of the evening, maybe we can have a little get-together. Say hello to some people.
I'm in. Let's do it.
All right, so sounds good. With that, hey, we give a shout-out to our producer. He was on it tonight. Give a shout-out to all of our dwellers. And again, we did a pre-show on X at 8 o'clock Eastern. If you're interested, we're probably going to do that again. So join us on X. We'll do a little pre-show before our live show here on YouTube. Appreciate everybody. Thank you to the Dweller Sellers.
Yeah, the seller.
Oh, the Dweller Seller has to take a pee.
Seller Dwellers.
Oh, my bad. What did I say?
You said opposite.
Whatever.
We have Richard McIntyre says, thanks, guys. Go Bobcats.
Go Bobcats. That's
Eat
right.
'em up, Cats.
Texas State. Eat them up. Hey, with that, we thank you guys for watching. Smash that like button. We'll see you next time on The Big Mountain.